It's been nearly half a decade since Junker Queen was teased in Overwatch's Junkertown map, and now Blizzard has finally announced that she will be playable in the upcoming Overwatch 2. But, regardless of the original positive reception of her character from previous splash arts, fans are now feeling underwhelmed after her official reveal. Despite her shredded muscle mommy physique and colorful yet punky aesthetic, Junker Queen almost looks like an NPC. And while there are pieces to her that are appealing in their own right, when you see it all mashed up together, it doesn't really stand out. And quite frankly, although not being ugly, she's simply not attention grabbing in any way. This is very surprising coming from Overwatch, being that as a whole, their cast of characters have always been the strong point of the franchise. Even characters who are more or less deemed conventionally unattractive still maintain strong visual appeal. So, how did they miss the mark with Junker Queen? If you look at her splash art, which garnered lots of positive attention from fans, you'll see that the final design very much respects the original vision. However, in execution, this is a type of character that needs a very specific balance between masculine and feminine features to really pull things off, especially given just how busy a punk aesthetic actually is. Here in the splash art, there's some harshness going on with the side shave mohawk, shoulder spikes, and what appears to be a scar on her face. But what balances these harsh features out so perfectly is that she still very much looks feminine in her pose, her soft high brow, delicate lips, and playful eyes. There's a spunk to her. She looks like she could knock your head off, but not so much in a brutish way, but while being fun about it in a sense. However, what we see in the final result is a lot of harsh features that are not appropriately balanced with the fun, spunky ones we saw in the splash art. The lower brow, more masculine stance, and her outfit not accentuating the feminine parts of her frame. What we have in the final result is a very busy design that lacks identity. It's like they couldn't figure out if they wanted her to be masculine or feminine. She just seems sort of like a bland in between of the two. When you look at another one of their muscular female characters, Zarya, for example, they committed to the more masculine aesthetic, and it works. It's clearly portrayed in her personality, and the hulking frame works well with it. But Junker Queen isn't that. She's not a brute strength kind of character, but she's not a soft feminine one either. Playing on what appeared to be a spunky personality from the splash art really would have helped her stand out a lot more. Instead, she's just kind of boring, despite having a lot of components that are actually good and could have worked if tweaked a bit. This leads me to another problem Blizzard has brought on themselves, honestly, regarding their cast of characters, and that is this newfound obsession with a character's sexuality being such a pivotal focus on their entire identity. You'll find in the Junker Queen announcement tweet multiple people asking what her sexuality is, as if that's the primary talking point of her character as a whole. This is something that shouldn't even matter either way. Overwatch is a game that focuses on teamwork and objective-based gameplay with what previously felt like an organically diverse cast of characters with their own unique styles that played a role in how they contribute to the game. If you look at a game like Life is Strange, where the entire premise is character story focused that heavily plays on building a variety of relationships with NPCs as a core element of gameplay, then yeah, sexuality plays a big role in that. But in a combat teamwork focused game, a character's sexuality is completely irrelevant. Making such a big deal out of such details completely shifts the focus from what the game is about in the first place. Not to say that characters can't have some sort of backstory that may or may not incorporate a spouse or lover to some degree sometimes, but making such a massive deal out of it is why we're seeing character design go from fun and unique ideas to simply checking off diversity boxes just for the sake of it. this completely detracts from dynamic character design as a whole, when mundane details as such are a huge focal point. It's like, alright, what about a character's favorite food? Does Junkrat like macaroni and cheese? Okay, neat. Maybe a voice line in passing is kind of funny, talking about something so basic. But imagine every character having to have their favorite food known to the player. It's really not an important detail that needs to be showcased with every single character, or especially heavily emphasized in the design process in general. I really see a character's sexuality as no different. Who they date or don't date is not relevant to the game. Why is it such a big deal? When creating and revealing new characters, one would think the primary objective, showcasing how said character impacts the game itself and what new and exciting experiences they bring to the game, would make a lot more sense when trying to actually sell game copies. At the end of the day, if a new character is going to convince me to hop back into a franchise, I need to see what said character brings to the table in terms of the game itself. I'm not going to buy a new game or dump a bunch of time into an older game just because a fictional character may have the same dating preferences as I do in a game that is not a dating simulator. In this case, Overwatch is not led with what Junker Queen's sexuality or other completely mundane and normal characteristics she may have are, but it's their history of at random shoehorning irrelevant identity-based details into pre-existing characters for media attention or deflection of negative press that have now put them in this position where we see more people asking about what their new character's unrelated personal identity traits are, as opposed to, I don't know, actually wondering how she plays in the game itself. Do said commenters actually play Overwatch? Or even want to? Or are they more concerned about looking at Rule 34 fan arts or videos of the cast of characters? It's sad to see Overwatch go from their characters being the strongest appeal and selling point to their game, completely fall victim to identity politics and woke agendas that have taken the heart out of the franchise altogether. In theory, Junker Queen should have been far more exciting of a reveal than she actually was. And years ago, when she was teased in the first place, I don't think anyone would have predicted this kind of outcome. But this is what happens when creative process is overpowered by a checklist of representation or playing it safe to mark some checkboxes without fully committing to inventive ideas. Junker Queen is not a terrible character. She's not ugly. She's not completely devoid of femininity. On paper, there are some unique and cool features she possesses, but she's quite simply just pretty safe and doesn't stand out, which is the antithesis of what a punk-type character is supposed to be. Moving forward, I want to see Blizzard unapologetically create the characters they want to create without inhibition. They need to commit to it. With the original Overwatch release, were characters like Zarya that common? No, not at all. But what makes her stand out so much is that her design reflects her playstyle. It works, and it doesn't feel like they delivered a muscular woman just for the sake of checking off a box regarding a less represented body type. It organically worked because it reflected how she plays in the game. With Junker Queen, just by looking at her, I have no idea what her playstyle is. Is she quick? Is she tanky? Is she a support? I don't even know. This is a character who could have been a lot of fun, but instead falls into the bland female heroine cookie cutter category that fails to generate the same interest and appeal as the other characters in Overwatch's lineup. So, what are your thoughts on Junker Queen? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're there, check out my description for my link tree on where else you can find me all over the internet. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and in the meantime, go boom.